Welcome to Wealth Well Done. Together, we'll cover a wide range of important topics surrounding money and the impact it has on our lives. From the sophisticated and highly valuable planning techniques of the ultra-wealthy to the commonly underutilized biblical teachings. Together, we'll work to improve our relationship with money and our effectiveness in stewarding it well. Here's your host, Eric Scovill.
All right. Welcome to the 70th episode of the Wealth Well Done podcast, where we are examining the tactical, practical, and biblical ways that you can steward your life and your wealth to do them both well done. This week, back again with Dr. Ryan Hewkin. And man, I was just thinking here while we took a quick break between recording episodes that I think we should do probably about 4 or 5 of these to fill out a little bit more of this discussion. There's so much to talk about here. But Dr. Ryan from Excelsior Health Centers in Missouri, co-host of the Natural Parents podcast. Thank you for being back on with us again, brother.
Oh, thank you so much for having me again. And to your listeners, if you guys are sticking around for a week too, tells me that there might be a little meat left on this bone for us to chat about. I know it's sometimes can be revealing as we dive into this. And I know it was for me. If it's okay, Eric, just a little background.
Good.
My world, I grew up, my dad's a pharmacist. So I grew up, there was a pill, a potion, or a lotion that we could put into or onto our bodies and it would change our symptoms. But it was the furthest thing from what I would now consider true health. And so, again, if you guys listened last week and you're like, man, I don't know, some of that stuff seems pretty far out there, keep digging. I know I had to. I was either all in or all out, but there's a moment in time in life when truth, it kind of comes and it punches you right in the face, and you got 2 options. You can either ignore it and continue to live a lie, or we can just dive deeper, bear down, learn it, and apply it. So, well, you're up for it. Let's do it.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, and I think we're going to hit that some more. There's some stuff that we left off from last week that we're going to pick up. But part of my thought with this is there are 2 different things that I wanted to draw attention to. One is what your podcast talks about and your pillars. And so you have faith first, and then you go faith health, or the faith family.
Faith health. That was actually the point of dissension when we started the whole program. So
I bet. But so faith health, because without your health, you can't do your family well either. And so faith is definitely the most important, no doubt. But then after that, like, our health is critical, and it comes before the wealth. And like we talked about last week, they would give up any amount of their wealth in order to get their health, but you can't buy it. You can buy work on your health, and we're going to talk a little bit about for the listeners who are affluent enough to take advantage of some opportunities. We're going to talk a little bit about different places that you can go there, but the reality is it's on you, and there's so much available to you to do with this. Like I talk about, we're all relatively ignorant when it comes to our finances. The amount of time that Ryan, you put into studying as a doctor into how to take care of your patients, run your business, is so far exceeds the amount of effort you put into understanding money, even though money is such a major impact, is a major part of your life. And we're all relatively ignorant about money. But likewise, we are all exceptionally ignorant about our health. And we could probably go down the line, same thing with faith as well. But all right, so into this one. So kind of back to this here. And this isn't expensive stuff either, but like the way that your eyes can be open, we've talked a little bit about grounding. Okay. And I know your podcast, your wife talks about how she, gets a headache and she steps outside and goes out on the and so for grounding, for those who don't know, grounding is when your body, which does have electrons, connects with the earth, which is the earth is negatively charged. And so when your body, without inhibitors like tennis shoes and rubber soles, connects with the earth, then your body grounds itself. And she'll say, like, I've got a headache, and I go out there and 10 minutes later, I don't have a headache when I just stand on the ground. And after hearing that, my wife and I started grounding, and, people joke about us, being hippies or something. I was like, that's because we're outside barefoot all the time, but it's incredible. And it's just like something that simple just shows God has this all under control. He's got such an incredible solution out there if we would just open our eyes to him. So I want to pick back up with the one that we skipped over last time, or I interrupted you when you were starting to go there, of your 7 pillars of vitality, and that was nutrition. Guy from my small group here just yesterday sent us a group message of a picture of a drumstick, and drumstick meaning the ice cream treat. And so he broke open a drumstick and put it on a plate and left it sitting out for like 12 hours, and it hadn't melted. Like,
It's not real food.
ice cream here had not melted. It was deflated, and there was this weird white crystally thing that was on the plate, but the ice cream had not melted. You take that compared to my mom actually made homemade ice cream with all real natural ingredients yesterday, and that thing was melting as soon as it came out of the container, so much more than even normal ice cream does.
Yeah.
It was melting, which is obviously the best when it's half melted, which again goes to show you that the way God creates it is so much better. Ice cream that melts is so much better. But so it's just like, our food is disgusting when we actually understand it. But it's so, ignorance is bliss, and being naive is better. And let alone for families who are on a budget here, and man, it's so cheap to just eat crappy stuff and everything else here. I want to talk about nutrition. Will you take us to school a little bit on nutrition, the importance of it, not only why Doritos are bad for us, but also, what is important to give our gut what it actually needs?
Yeah. So right now, this second, what you had for lunch, dinner, breakfast, whatever your last meal was, your body is breaking it down into its most simplistic organic compounds. And people say all of the time, you are what you eat. Like, again, let's look at this. Let's zoom way out and look at it through a godlike lens and perspective. There is nothing, like, sometimes I think, so I separate it in my brain until I don't, but that there is nothing that's in and of me that's not out of this earth that I walk around on every single day,
okay.
Right? Because food in our modern day world has this very disconnected nature. Food feels very inanimate, and ice cream drumsticks out of a package probably are inanimate, but food as a construct, we are so disconnected from it. We've forgotten what it is that makes up every single one of those that we talked about in the last episode. 37 plus trillion cells inside my body is what made out of what I put into it. And like, okay, again, all moment for God. My wife has made 3 babies out of pickles and ice cream. Like, the fact that she can do that, it far supersedes what I could ever do, right? And so like, just the construct is so amazing to me, and I will never get over it. But you have to look at your food through this lens. If it has a package, in particular ingredients list, that's any longer than just a couple of items, don't. I'm telling you right now, you would do yourself a massive favor if you just went to or through the grocery store and didn't buy stuff in a package. And I'm telling you, you could eat well. You don't have to expend a ton of money to do it. You could consume a very balanced, nutritionally dense diet, so much more and greater than anything that you could buy for cheap in a package. And again, I know it's the shelf stability and there's all these different things that drive the price down, and the economics of it you would probably better understand than I ever would. But there is something to be said for just eating real food. I chuckled when you said drumstick earlier, because in my brain, I thought you were talking about like a chicken leg.
Right.
I clarify. I forgot that ice cream drumsticks are a thing. But going back to that, right now, this second, your body's breaking down. Let's say you had an apple for lunch. Well, there's things that make up an apple, right? There's carbon inside of there. There's obviously things like glucose and fructose and different types of sugar, and so it's more of a carbohydrate. And again, the micros and macros. But there's minerals, there's elements, there's things that your body needs, and the intricacies of how. I think about, like, remember when we were kids, the Magic School Bus TV show.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So they like go microscopic down into the body and actually see how things work. Right. I think about that. I'm like, man, I wish I could see how an apple becomes a heart cell. I know that it can. I know that it does
Yeah.
in and of its own way, but it's your body's direction of that digested product that says, here, we need to make this. And so if it's pulling things, again, an organic being, not a trendy term, like organic meaning coming from nature, from the earth. If I'm an organic being and I eat a food that comes from nature as well, and in its organic sense, my body knows what to do with that. You give me something that was created in a lab that we kind of put together in a food-like construct, the body's going to get that wrong. I almost guarantee it. Not every time, but sometimes. And so now you got a kidney cell living over in your heart. And I know like that is again, that's not literally what happens, but understand what I'm saying is that I think you're only making it harder on your body if you're not just eating a processed food free diet. And when I say diet, I don't mean like caloric restriction. I mean the food you consume.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the radical change for me was when I realized, okay, these enriched white buns that are on, that are on my food aren't good, and I should probably stop eating those. Okay, well now here I am, take that to the next level. I'm somewhere where the only options to eat are lower quality, they're poor quality food, and I don't mean cheap like I'm haughty with that, but just this isn't natural. None of this food is going to have a clean ingredient list or anywhere close to it. And so when this switch for me, it was like a new era. I decided my body would be better off not eating than eating that.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh man, like, yeah, if the only option is this, because that's where I'm at right now, I could just not eat. And my body's okay with that. And so we're going to use that to jump straight into fasting. And again, just a fascination with God here, but the nutrition that we have, or the lack thereof, inside the food that we eat, and like what you talked about last week around our gut health, it's so critical to all of these diseases that are now having such a prominent impact on our society that I don't think need to be there if we were to take proper care of ourselves. And all that looks like is, and you can eat less food if you eat better quality.
Right.
So, okay, jumping off of that soapbox for a minute, let's talk about fasting.
Yeah. Well, as a joke, to lighten it, a little, I got a friend, he says, I ain't never known a man to starve in a day. Right. So like when you were saying, if I'm somewhere and the food choices just aren't quality, you could, in your own way, surrender in a moment of connectedness to God. I mean, any time that we fast, that's really like, if we're talking true spiritual fasting, right? Mm-hmm. It's an opportunity for us to grow in our reliance upon God's sustenance for our life, right? And so, yes, God's given us food and we have the ability to eat and consume calories, and that fuels our body, and the microcosms of that are amazing. But there is a spiritual connection there. And I know I do want to talk about the nutritional implications of it. But yeah, you're at a restaurant. I don't want to just pass by that and be like, oh, that's just Eric being mentally tough. Like, he's right. You would be better off to not eat a Chick-fil-A sandwich than to eat a Chick-fil-A sandwich. And I've had them. Don't get me wrong. They're delicious.
It tastes great.
But and they've done an amazing job. It's the Lord's chicken, right? Like, I mean, they've done a good job of marketing, so to speak, as to what it is that they do. People, I take care of a lot of people who think it of a healthier option, and I'm not trying to dog on them right now. I'm just saying, if it's fast food, it is processed, it is these different things, you'll make it to the next meal. Just get home, get to where you're going, go somewhere. There are just nutritious things that you can find that are just real food. Put a little calories in your body and keep moving, or just fast. There is major health opportunity in fasting, not to mention a spiritual aspect of it too.
So let's try to hit a little bit of both of those. I know that fasting is probably more of a mainstream secular, not a fad by any means. Hopefully it's a long-term thing, because there's so much good with it. But when most people think about fasting now inside the church, they're more likely to be talking about what they're doing for their health and for their spiritual side. So let's first go health. Let's go up to the scientific side of fasting and explain that, and then we'll go in and grab the spiritual side of this. So to the health side, what are the benefits of fasting on a health standpoint?
Simply short, glucose sensitivity. Your body needs to be extremely sensitive in its management of glucose production or utilization, I guess is a better term. And so, not to be too technical here, but you have this organ, it's called your pancreas. Your pancreas produces something that's called insulin. Insulin's job is to get glucose out of your blood as fast as it can. When you go and get a blood test done, I don't know if you've ever done that enough to know what like a fasting blood glucose should be. But the number is less than 100 grams per deciliter or deciliters, whatever. The number's 100. Forgive me, I get the metrics wrong here, but 100 is the like kind of standard. We really want it to be even a little less than that, like 95 and less would be really great. There is a too low as well, below 60. That would be, there's this optimal range that God designed your body to have your blood in the glucose in your blood at any given moment in time. So when you eat something, let's say it's a donut, and who doesn't love a good donut, right? Actually, donut wouldn't even be that bad. No, careful. Something like a very sugary soda or something like that. Very, very high glucose, very high sugar content. Your body takes that in and it spikes immediately because it starts digesting it down into that glucose that's primarily in there. And it says, well, let's get this into the system. The body's trying to drive that glucose into the muscle, into the liver for use on a rainy day when you're fasting, right? For the next time. So it burns it as fuel. Your body's primary fuel source, its first fuel source is glucose. And so your body's job, if you took, Eric, and drained all the blood out of your body, put it into a bucket, and then you took all the blood out of the bucket and put the sugar, left the sugar behind, you'd be left with around a tablespoon or so worth of sugar. That's it in your whole body as an adult male. How many things do we eat out there on a typical American diet that have multiple tablespoons worth of sugar in them in one setting, right? So now let's just say you do that, you have some sugary cake and some soda to wash it down and whatever, your insulin or your glucose spikes way up. It goes way high off the charts. And now your body is going to work really, really hard to get that toxic glucose out of the blood because it's way too high. People who have full-blown systemic diabetes, right? Their glucose numbers, they might not know it, but they'll go to the hospital and it'll be 500, 600, 700, right? And their body's in a state of almost complete failure because it cannot handle that for sustained periods of time. But again, coming back to the health purpose of this is that your body wants that glucose to stay relatively low at about 100. So any food you eat, its job is to bring that back down. And so when it starts bringing that back down, every time you eat, it spikes it back up if all you're eating is things like glucose and that kind of stuff. And so fasting, the premise here from a health standpoint is how long can I teach my body to sustain 100 grams of sugar in the blood? How long can I teach it to do that, right? And so how long can I sustain that and teach my body to go into other states of metabolic utilization, so caloric burning. So we can burn glucose, we can burn endogenous fat, we can burn exogenous fat, the food that we actually eat, and things of that nature. That's like a state of ketosis, which is a trendy thing, like the keto diet and different things like that. But ultimately, fasting from a health standpoint will help your body maintain its sensitivity to glucose, which is massively, massively important for all different aspects of your life. Not to just mention we don't want to have diabetes. I mean, obviously, diabetes is one of the most comorbid conditions that we have out there. But that is the name of the game and why fasting is not only trendy from a health standpoint, but why it also is effective.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that color. You're making me think about the the food that I take in. I will say, just a side note, my wife loves to cook, and she has found so many incredible. She's also has a strong sweet tooth, and she has found so many incredible desserts that she makes that are low sugar or no sugar, definitely only natural sugar. I mean, just makes, anything with sweetener is going to be, there's no sugar going in. It's going to be maple syrup or honey instead.
Right.
And so anyways, there's so many wonderful options out there. We eat awesome desserts and they're really healthy. Or at least, from a relative standpoint, they have more health and nutritional aspects than probably most people's, supper is in our dessert, just because of you're using natural ingredients. So that's a sidebar. Okay, so to the spiritual side of fasting, and we've done another episode on this before, so I won't take too long. But I just think it's so incredible, the spiritual side of fasting here, of your ability for your mind to step over your brain and say that I'm in charge. And I was telling my kids this the last time I fasted, like, well, my tummy's sitting here saying that it's throwing a little temper tantrum, saying that feed me, and this is my brain's turn to say, no, I'm in charge. One of the many benefits of fasting, but the idea of making that sacrifice before the Lord, humbling yourself in that way. I just think there's so many great things to explore inside fasting, the sensitivity that it gives you to the spirit when you do that, and when you devote yourself to prayer, more time in the Word, in exchange of the time that you would be eating. So strongly encourage fasting from a spiritual standpoint. But one of the things that I find incredibly fascinating, back to the scientific side of this, and just how amazing this world is that God designed, is I was told about a study here that after 3 days, and I don't know if autophagy is the right word here or not, but after 3 days, your body of fasting, if you're doing a water only fast, 3 days of that, your body starts eating cancer cells.
Mm-hmm.
Like, isn't that, and you can hit on that study here in just a second, but isn't that just like God, that I've got this planned out? Just do what I laid out to do. I mean, how many times does the Bible talk about fasting? Yet most Christians, at least let's say most American Christians, do not practice fasting whatsoever. And if they do, well, maybe I skipped a meal every once in a while, like because I was tired, or it's inconvenient, or whatever else like that, and so they count that as fasting. But a true Lord focused fasting has many other benefits, and He's teaching you, I want you to fast, and by the way, I'm going to use that to do all this incredible stuff inside your body. So will you hit that study quickly, or just anything about that idea that your body can actually eat those harmful cells?
Yeah, so you hit it right on the head. Autophagy is the name of the game, where your body actually starts to consume and clean up what's out there that doesn't belong. And so when you have extended periods of fasting, there is evidence and research that says your body goes into this heightened state of, well, what can I burn as fuel? Because I don't want to eat me. I don't want to take my own resource. I don't want to degrade muscle. While that will start to happen in extended periods of fasting, because your body has to run itself. And there is a line between starvation and fasting, right? And you can push and you can toe that line for sure, but it's not to mean that that's not a bad thing. But yeah, when your body goes into this free radical is another trending term. So free radicals are basically radical things floating around inside your body. They're little toxins in and of themselves. They're byproducts of your body utilizing different sources of energy, or fueling itself, or just cleaning itself up, just whatever. There's energetic byproducts floating around in your body. And when you don't consume calories, your body in its infinite wisdom is going to start to look around, look left, look right. You belong here. You don't. Let me consume you, right? And so it will do that, and it'll start to break it down. And then there's the immune aspect of that is majorly. You have things called natural killer cells. You have all these cancer-fighting T cells and B cells inside your immune system that really get into a heightened state, because you're not putting anything into, again, going back to what we talked about before, into your digestive system, into your gut. And so your gut is really able to go to work for you as a part of this, and clean itself up a little bit.
That's so cool. It just, again, brings me back to this, awe state of God, and how His creation is just is so infinitely complex. Okay, I want to switch into a little bit about the what you've talked about in your podcast. You did an episode, and this isn't to keep people from needing to listen to your podcast. I think I want to direct people there because there's so much good resources there. But the one that you did about the biggest lies that we've been told about our health, I want to just kind of briefly hit these topics here. And the thing that you brought up that's so interesting is you're saying that with the United States, we're in a spot of we spend more on health. Why don't you said, I don't want to take that from you. Talk a little bit about where the U.S. is here in terms of our view of health, and then tell us the lies that we're believing about it.
Well, I guess let me just make that statement first. I believe the three biggest lies that we're told when it comes to our health are that pills make you healthy, that symptoms always require treatment, and that your health is someone else's responsibility. And there's more to unpack there. But when we look at what we're being taught as a society, and I'm not saying there is a systematic teaching or indoctrination of society. I'm also not saying there's not. I'm just saying that there is what we're being taught, what we're being led to believe is that health comes from the outside in. And God told us and set it up to where we would heal ourselves from the inside out.
Right.
And I know that sounds weird, but when you look at the way that we spend and what we spend money on in this country, we're number one in the industrialized world in medical spending, right? So medical expenditures. We spend more on healthcare per capita than any other country, probably the top 10 or 15 countries combined. But we are next to last, depending on what year they do the study. We're always in the bottom of the barrel of the industrialized countries in the world in actual health outcomes. And so if health comes from a bottle, if health comes from more surgeries, it comes from more pills, then we wouldn't be here because we spend more money on that stuff than anyone else. Yet we have more diabetes, more cancer, more heart disease, more disorders, more chronic diseases, autoimmune disorders, all of these things. And it's happening at such an alarming rate. It's because we are so far from what God designed for true health to actually be that we don't even know how to find our way back. It's kind of like the blind leading the blind, unfortunately. And so we have to take a self-assessment, and that's where we start from. That's my whole philosophy when it comes to health is that, wait, God gave me all of these tools right here inside of me to be healthy.
Right.
And that's hard because some people, I understand, we have these chronic ailments and chronic diseases and chronic disorders. But I'm telling you, no symptom that you're going through, if that's you, is actually your body trying to attack or kill itself. It's trying to work for you. If your blood pressure goes up, guess what? You need higher blood pressure to get through a clogged artery so that your body can have oxygen and glucose and all these things it needs to run itself, right? Like you don't just genetically predisposed to every disorder inside of your life that's going wrong. There are, again, that's a whole different concept and probably an entire podcast on something called epigenetics, turning genes on, turning them off, the environmental factors, how we think towards our health. Like I am so passionate about just teaching people to believe and trust in their own bodies. And it's like one of those things, Paul uses the term depending on the translation, but I beseech you, their brethren, I beseech ye, their brethren. And I'm like, I just like that term. I'm like I'm begging you to get this concept that your body was made to heal itself. Sometimes we just have to take a step back and allow it a chance to do that. Give the tools, the things it needs to do it, and just watch it go to work. But
yeah, that's good. Okay. All right. So if I'm trying to do this, so I'm trying to take in, what you shared on the last episode with the 7 pillars of vitality, and there's a lot of practical things I can do, but I don't know where to start. And I've got a smart home. Everything is a Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. I can't. Every appliance is turned on by my phone. I've got just like we can go around. The pantry is full of the processed foods. Everything is designed to protect me from the elements and not need to let my body be caused to adapt. My car will always be in the garage. If it's ever outside, then I have it automatically started, so I don't ever have to be cold. I can layer up so much that I can go from inside to outside and never get cold, and just never put myself into those pieces here. So I'm not letting my body do things. I've never been taught that. I want to talk about a solution for some people. Again, this wouldn't be for everyone, but if someone's willing to put some money into this, because people, what we talked about, when people are no longer in health, when they're no longer in health, they're willing to put money toward this. So what I'd like to encourage people to do who are in varying degrees of health right now is to take practical steps toward this. And this isn't something where I've got to, buy this and I'm going to make some commission off it kind of thing. But I want to talk about like naturopaths, and then good chiropractors. And this isn't to diminish anything about a medical doctor. I know that a lot of the Western medicine, looks down on chiropractors, looks down on naturopaths, and a lot of us. I was reading a journal or a article on the AMA website here about naturopaths, and they were just carving them up. They don't have the thousands of hours of schooling and clinicals that we do, and they just clearly they were very defensive about something here. But so a little bit about like what a naturopath might do. We've talked about grounding, we're talking about EMFs, sleep, clothing, the clothing that we wear, like our skin being the biggest organ and all the things that we take in. A naturopath is someone who's going to go into your house and help you with this. Do you have experience that? Do you recommend that to people? Can you talk a little bit about what someone might encounter if they were to engage a naturopath?
Yeah. So a couple of different things. One, like you said, is the mindset in which they're going to approach what it is that you're seeking their care for. No one gets into medicine. No one gets into chiropractic care. No one gets into naturopathic care to do anything except for help and serve people. So I want to be very clear that if you've got a medical doctor that wrote you a prescription for high blood pressure or cholesterol or vice versa, that's just the tool they have in their tool bag. It's not that they're like out to get you and just put you on meds. It's just they look at it, and they were taught, as I was growing up, mind you, and as a pharmacist, that symptom here is a symptom changer. I can help you with that, and kudos to them, because I couldn't learn 1 ounce of that, of the pharmacokinetics and pharmacology aspects of what's happening in drug interaction. Also, I couldn't even fathom trying to learn that. And so they in their best interest and their best knowledge are operating in your interest to the best of their ability. A naturopath is going to do the same thing. They're just going to do it differently. They're going to use natural products, be it a true, like tried and true, what we call an in as in Nancy, D, naturopathic doctor, a doctor of naturopathic medicines, those types of things. They're going to use what nature gives. And so there are, mind you, no medications out there that aren't derivatives from something that came from nature. We just figured out a way to formulate it in a lab to make it, more of a controlled aspect of that. And so there's that. But we have other people out there, what I like to call root cause practitioners. There are different varying, for lack of a term, governing bodies out there. There's links to people that I could connect you with. Most of them are able to work virtually, because if you can go and get lab work done, or you can do some energetic testing or DNA measuring for epigenetic testing and different things like that, you can do that anywhere. They can talk to you just in this type of a setting, face-to-face on a virtual call, and work through some of what you have going on.
We'll go ahead and we'll put if you've got a link or something, we can add that to the show notes here for people to go somewhere that you would at least recommend.
Yeah, one of the best ones, I'll just say it, is integrative health practitioners. That's one of the main governing kind of things, IHP certification. So they have a website we can get people with that to find
great
people that hold those certifications. So that's really good, because they're going to go deeper. They're not just going to say, well, again, I just keep using this as a analogy, but you've got high blood pressure. Here's a pill that lowers your blood pressure. Oh, you've got a migraine. Here's a pill that gets rid of migraines when you have them, right? They're going to look into the deeper causes of what's going on. Are you living in a mold infested environment? Like, is there actually growing mold somewhere in your home or in your workplace? Are there heavy metals that you're consuming in the processed and packaged foods that you're doing? And so there's really, really hard things to do. It says like blanket statement, anybody could start with this. we've given some, right? There's 3 things you can do that are going to have a positive impact on your health. But getting synced up with someone that's going to say, let's quit trying to guess and let's just quit trying to cover and mask symptoms. Let's get down to the root cause of the issues at hand, and actually do some testing that looks deeper than even what we can find in your traditional, blood work analysis and things like that.
Will you, with the time we have left, will you talk a little about chiropractic to someone who either has had bad experiences or, seen someone snap necks or heard the stories of people, like my mom, who is a nurse practitioner, she in neurology, she has seen the casualties of this. And so will you help people understand what it is that the chiropractic is attempting to do, and what that means when you open up drainage pathways and neurological pathways, and will you help people understand that side of it?
Yeah, for sure. And just like anything in the world, right, there's good and bad in every industry. I jokingly say all the time, it's not a joke at all, actually. It's just say it lightheartedly that if you get 10 chiropractors in a room, we'll tell you 11 different ways to do it. And most people would hear that and say, oh, that's rough. That's not good. And I would say there's good and bad in it. For the person that has the open mind, unfortunately, when we group in our minds chiropractic into one lump sum, you drive past 10 chiropractors, you think they're all the same. And so I've met so many people that have had a bad experience with one. And so I tried chiropractic, it didn't work for me, or they just we're trying to get my car insurance billing, or whatever. And there's these little nuanced pockets of chiropractic that aren't actually doing what the profession was laid out to do, which was be the largest drugless, surgeryless healing profession in the world, mind you. And so we are trying to help people in a natural means achieve an optimal state of being through the brain and nervous system. We adjust bones. We have our ways of, making corrections or putting an impulse into the spine. But the original premise of chiropractic was founded on the issue that the nervous system controls every organ and cellular function inside the body. The founder of chiropractic is D.D. Palmer, and he said, why does one man go to work in the same factory, eat relatively the same foods, and he gets sick and the other one doesn't? Something else is going on here. And that's why I always talk about, from the first pillar of vitality for me, is starting from this place of adaptive potential. How well can your body adapt to the stressors that are on it? So we got to look at, the root of this. We say our degree is a doctorate of chiropractic. We say doctor of cause. And so the good chiropractors are out there. They're actually getting into the roots of the issues that you're dealing with and trying to fix them at the cause of the problem, not just mask the symptom, which we've talked about. And so again, not all are created equal, I would say, but we do have a fundamental premise that's built on the foundation of let's get your body right the way God designed it to be.
What are some of the things that people would not naturally, or that the majority of Americans would not tend to think, I should go to my chiropractor for this? That is very clearly something that that a good adjustment could address.
Yeah. I don't know why this keeps coming up, but one of the most common thing I see people stop taking medications wise, and that's not by my direction, that's outside of my scope of practice. People just tell me, hey, I don't have to take this anymore. I worked with my doctor. I don't take this anymore. It's blood pressure. If your blood pressure is high, if your blood pressure is dysregulated, if it's low, whatever's going on, you should have your nervous system checked. You should have your spine checked by a neurologically focused chiropractor. So that's going on. Ear infections in kids, constipations with little babies, nursing, latching difficulties with young children. That's most of my practice, probably 50 to 60% of it is kids. And people are like, what in the world does a kid need to go to the chiropractor for? But again, we're operating from the mindset of let's rack and crack and twist and pop and do these things, right? Yeah. And while that is not even a little bit remotely close to what we do to help children, but I don't think my practice is full of kids if we're not helping kids with all sorts of different ailments, things like that. Reflux is a major issue, both in adults and kids. Migraine headaches, of course. Do I help people with neck and back pain? Every single day. I'm never amazed, never not amazed at that. People come to me with those things, but those are usually, by the nature of the beast, if you will, people come through my door with neck or back pain, and then they end up telling me, hey, I sleep better. My indigestion's gone. My blood pressure medication, I was taking 2, now I'm on none. My thyroid's functioning better than it's ever had. My glucose numbers aren't what they used to be. Did you fix me, Dr. Ryan? And it's like, well, no. all we did was allow the power that is alive and well within you to work better inside every aspect of you.
Yeah.
I'll give a story, and this is kind of a tough story because the gentleman, he's no longer with us. He went on to be with the Lord, and he came to me, though. He was the grandfather of an entire family that I took care of. He had systemic metastatic cancer throughout his whole body, and he had excruciating pain in his hip. And he's like, can you help me? I said, I don't know. All I know is that God put you in my path, and we can try. And so we started working with him, started adjusting him on a regular basis, and his pain would get marginally better here or there, but it wasn't pleasing to him, so to speak. But he was in good spirits. He was a great guy. And one day he came to me, he said, Dr. Ryan, this is crazy. My hip, terrible. Just feels awful. I don't think you're helping me there. I said, okay. His name was Magoo. Loved him to death. I said, okay. He goes, but I will tell you, I have had uncontrolled diabetes type 2 for the last 15 years of my life. And there's also no disconnection there between diabetes and cancer. There's an aspect there and stuff. But he said, since you started adjusting me, this is about 6 weeks. I've been checking him once or twice a week. And he said, since you started adjusting me, my glucose numbers have never been better. And I said, and just kind of took that. And was like, that's really interesting. And people tell me that kind of stuff. And I'm like, even in my own realm, I'm like, I don't know sometimes. And then I went home, and later that night, I was like, oh my gosh, cancer loves sugar. We talked about earlier in this episode about how important getting sugar out of your blood is, because not just for, metabolism and all these kinds of things, but just because there are certain things going on inside your body right now, whether you're aware of it or not, that really thrive on sugar, and we don't want it in there. And I was like, holy smokes, we've been adjusting him, and his nervous system is making his pancreas work like it never has in the last 10 to 15 years, per his words. He's like, I take my blood sugar numbers, and it's like, I don't even need insulin right now. I mean, it was just, it blew my mind in that moment. I didn't even think about it. So the next time I saw him, I was like, here's what it is. I realized this is it. And so that was just something that, again, we don't know what your body is trying to heal. We just have to, in our world, we say, remove the interference. We say nature needs no help. God needs no help. He just needs no interference from working within you. And a true neurologically focused chiropractor is simply working to remove interference out of this system that connects your brain and your body, so that we always say all healing comes from above, down through the brain, the spinal cord, and then from the inside out to every tissue, organ, and cell inside your body. And that's the name of the game with chiropractic. That's what we're trying to help people do.
That's awesome. Thank you. I've got this one is personal for one particular listener here who is struggling with migraines, and his solution is Excedrin. So, and I know we talked about this, that pills don't make you healthy. So to someone who's struggling with migraines, and they come on all the time, and it's just that there seems to be no solutions anywhere, what would you be telling someone there?
For me, if they haven't already been checked by the right chiropractor, and I don't mean to sound conceited in that, I do have opinions on what the right chiropractor would be, or the right type of chiropractor would be. I'd start there to get a deeper level and deeper look in that. If we're there and we're still doing it, then there has to be an environmental trigger that's playing a role in this. So there are, again, tests and analyses that we can run to say, okay, here's what's going on. Your body is really struggling with this, that, or the other thing. It could be a food trigger. It could be a sleep trigger. It could be headaches, migraines. They're one of the most fickle of disorders because so many things could be at play. But again, it's not just because I'm a chiropractor. It's just that's what God has revealed to me, is that's where I have to start with people. And so if we're doing a good job of checking the nervous system, sympathetic, migraines are very sympathetically driven. And so we wouldn't want to be adjusting in both parts of the nervous system, which again is getting somewhat technical. If that person has questions or would like to reach out, I'm happy to jump on a call anytime and just talk through it. But your body wasn't born with a deficiency of Excedrin. I know you know that. I'm just here to help in any way, any capacity that I could. And if that's just steering you to the right provider, then we can do that.
What should someone be looking for who doesn't live anywhere near the St. Louis area? And obviously with this, if you're anywhere in the St. Louis area, Ryan's got offices in Chesterfield and Sullivan. But if you're in that area, go there and get checked out. But if they're not anywhere close to you, what are they looking for and trying to find a great starting point for a chiropractor?
Yeah, so some sort of front end testing. Don't go to a chiropractor that just lays you on a table and starts moving things around. They should be seeing what's going on before they ever start doing anything like that. So I'm a major advocate for x-rays. X-rays are a great test and a tool that we can see what's going on beneath the surface, so to speak. We do in our offices neurological exams, so you can. It's a bit of a nuanced technology to the space or to the industry, but it's called CLA Insight scanning technology. Some other ones are called myovision, but they actually show us what muscles are working too hard, what nerves are working too hard, where the inflammation is in your body, how your heart rate is adapting to the world around it. And so a neurological exam of some capacity on the front end of an adjustment would be very important. And then my specific technique in the chiropractic space is called the Gonstead method. The Gonstead method is really well known in the chiropractic space. It's a little trendy because there are some potential Gonstead chiropractors on like YouTube and stuff like that. But everybody's a little bit different. But the premise of the Gonstead chiropractor is to do the least to achieve the most. And if we can really test and really analyze before you ever get adjusted, we're going to be able to get you the results you're looking for faster.
Okay. How do you spell Gonstead?
Gonstead. And there's a website, gonstead.com. There's an entire directory. If you still got questions after directory, reach out to me, any social channel. I'm just Ryan Hewkin on all those platforms. Reach out to me. And if you're like, is this the right place? I'd be happy to point you in the right direction.
Oh man, brother, you are such a source of wisdom and not only wisdom in terms of the broader picture of life here and what you and Abby share in your podcast, but wisdom in the approach to the body and the approach to seeking God first with this. And so to the listeners, I would just encourage you to not only be seeking God first yourself, but just like we want you to have believers in your, in the financial advisors that you work with, in your financial team, your lawyers, your accountants. You're not going to be getting stewardship type advice from someone who's not a believer. They're not going to be encouraging you to think through, well, what would God want you to do with your resources? In the same way, to the medical practitioners you're working with, finding someone who is going to go to God first. Well, how did God design you? What would what makes sense from the way that the Lord has put you together here? That's I think the gold standard in here that to find practitioners who are going to operate from that premise. So Ryan, thank you so much for your time on these episodes here. It's been a wonderful insight from me, and I hope for the listeners it's been the same. But appreciate you, brother. Again, I'll give it one more plug for their podcast here, the Natural Parents Podcast. It's not like they're raking in a bunch of money on it, but the idea is they're just out there, like we are. They're just giving away a ton of free advice, and man, I can't see you possibly being steered wrong by taking what they're sharing. So, thank you again for joining us, Ryan, and I just wish you a blessing that the Lord continues to put on you and your family. Ryan just fired his wife here a couple of days ago in the most beautiful way, and so you're a blessing to so many people. And I just wish that I pray a special blessing on you and your family as you guys continue to step into this next beautiful season of your life. Thanks for being on with us, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you again for listening to Wealth Well Done. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player, and together we'll continue to improve our relationship with money and our effectiveness in stewarding it well.